From South Carolina Public Radio, this is the South Carolina Lede. I'm your host, Gavin Jackson, and this episode was recorded on July 11th, 2025 at South Carolina Public Radio Studios here in Columbia. On this episode of The Lede, we take you on the road to Georgetown County, where on Monday evening, State Senator Stephen Goldfinch became the first Republican to jump in the state attorney general's race. We also catch up with California Governor Gavin Newsom on his two-day swing through our early voting state. Yes, there are two Gavins on this podcast. Two Gavins with really good hair. And it's been 10 years since the Confederate battle flag came off the statehouse grounds. Where is it now? And we look at hurricane season, which is already underway. Looking at you, Tropical Storm Chantal. Now, the Lede loves hearing from everyone. That's why we have a voicemail box set up at 803-563-7169. Give us a shout. Let us know what's on your mind. We're dying to know. We need to know. And I want to talk to you about car buying experiences. I don't know if I have enough time to talk about it today because I'm stressed for time, but love shopping for cars. Let me know your experience. We can't wait to talk. 803-563-7169. Let's start the week in order here.
Order!
After I left y'all in West Ashley, I headed up US 17 to Murrells Inlet for Senator Stephen Goldfinch's Attorney General announcement in Georgetown. South Carolina State Senator Goldfinch on Monday entered the 2026 race for Attorney General, becoming the first Republican to launch a bid to be the state's top prosecutor. Goldfinch is 42, and like I said, he announced in Murrells Inlet 2 weeks after Republican Attorney General Alan Wilson launched his campaign for governor.
As Attorney General, I will get between the citizenry, the people out there, and the bureaucrats. I'm going to get in the way. I'm going to get in the way, and I'm going to stop that from happening. We need an Attorney General that's not scared of the federal government. We need an Attorney General that's going to step up and that's going to say, no more. South Carolina likes its conservative policies. We like the way that we're going in South Carolina. We don't want to go the way of Washington, D.C. Nobody wants to go the way of Washington, D.C. Not even the people in Washington, D.C. want to go the way of Washington, D.C. I've got a few friends up there. Congressman Fry is a great friend, as you know, fighting that same fight. And I'm telling y'all, it's a cesspool. It's a cesspool. And all they want to do is gobble up the states. Gobble them up. As Attorney General, I am not going to let that happen. I am not going to let that happen. I am going to stand in the way. I'm going to stand in the gap. And I'm going to make sure that South Carolina remains a free and conservative state. Now, I don't want to keep you here forever. I know it's hot, and I know a lot of you have driven a long way, and I want to tell you, I'm so thankful for you to be here. I've got a lot of friends that have fought some of these fights with me here today. I see a lot of people. I see some folks from Columbia. Thank y'all for being here. I see some folks from the upstate. Thank y'all for being here. I see some folks from home that have always been there. Thank you for being there. Y'all, we're going to take this fight to the next step. It's time. It's time for Horry and Georgetown County to have a statewide candidate. It's never happened in the history of South Carolina. It's never happened in the history of South Carolina. We've never had a statewide candidate. Today's the day, y'all. Today is the day that we start. Today is the day that we start to bring some of that power back here, home. I've seen that power dispersed over the state for years and years and years, usually in Greenville, sometimes in Columbia, sometimes now in Sumter. Some of you laughed at that because you know the inside joke there. Horry County, Georgetown County have never had it. Never had it. Next year, y'all, we're going to have it. Thank you so much for coming.
The Georgetown Republican represents Senate District 34, which covers portions of coastal Georgetown and Horry counties. Now, Goldfinch was first elected to the Senate in 2016 after serving 2 terms in the SC House. He was born in Conway. He's an attorney and small business owner. He's also a captain in the South Carolina Army National Guard. He's a graduate of the Citadel and Charleston School of Law. Now, Goldfinch's campaign said in a release that it will focus on 4 areas: law and order, limited government, military leadership, and conservative values. I think a lot of people are going to be focusing on these things, despite whatever race they're going to be in over the coming months. Now, in the statehouse, Goldfinch has been critical of beach regulations that he says infringe on private property rights. And he also sponsored a resolution to create somewhat of an Elon Musk-style Doge committee. This year, he also held a key role in the Senate's efforts to investigate and remove Republican Treasurer Curtis Loftus over the $1.8 billion accounting error. Listeners of this podcast will remember that. You couldn't help but not. I mean, the boondoggle, that was like half of our year right there already. But this year, we're talking about the 2026 Attorney General's race. Of course, as you know, there is going to be a primary should other people jump in this race next June. And other people are expected to jump in this race, including Henry McMaster Jr. No, yeah, I got you there. Yes, that's right. That's like son of Governor Henry McMaster. And also, First Circuit Solicitor David Pascoe, a recently turned Republican, is expected to jump in, as well as 8th Circuit Solicitor Dave Stumbo. So stay tuned for some more announcements in the AG's race, which we'll be covering up through the primary.
And beyond.
But let's move on to another Gavin and go from the Grand Strand to the PD, where on Tuesday, California Governor Gavin Newsom visited several spots as part of the South Carolina Democratic Party's initiative to invigorate Democrats across the state in areas they say were overlooked by the GOP, and even go to areas that are hotbeds for Republicans, like the upstate. Newsom started the 2-day stretch in Florence County, then stopped in Marion, Marlborough, and Chesterfield counties, where he spoke to voters and other leaders. And just a note, a lot of those areas are becoming redder, so he's really kind of trying to make inroads and reinvigorate the folks that are there. Now in Camden, Congressman Jim Clyburn introduced the governor to a crowd of more than 300 people. There, Newsom talked about his opposition to book bans, efforts to defund Planned Parenthood, Medicaid cuts, poverty, and support for immigration initiatives. And he called rural areas the backbone of the states. Now, I was in Pickens on Wednesday up in the upstate, where he spoke before a crowd of some 250 people. And there was actually overflow right onto Main Street. People were looking through the windows to catch a glimpse of that head of hair, and both Gavins. And this is on Main Street, right across from the courthouse, where some Republican protesters had gathered, holding signs that said, "Newsom's score F- for failed promises," and "Men can't have babies in SC." Inside, he spoke of getting the country back on track.
I know what you're saying, well, it wasn't good enough because that big, beautiful, or big, ugly betrayal, that bill passed. You know, and you start to feel demoralized again. We thought we had some energy and momentum. We were counting on Murkowski or Collins or all these people. Exactly. Which you just can't count on.
No.
Rule of done. Threats, intimidation, fear. Tactics used across the board. But you are the antidote to that fear, anxiety, that cynicism. And you will be tasked with the most important responsibility in our lifetimes. I know that's grossly exaggerated sometimes, but it's not right now. It's all at stake next year. It's the whole thing. Do not, please, don't get caught up in the guy or gal on the white horse come save the day in 2028. Please don't. I don't know what it is about Democrats. We just want to fall in love and romanticize. I get it. Put on some music. I want to do this as well. And you know, it feels good. But it's the hard work in between. That's what democracy is about. It's the work of showing up for yourselves, for your community, for your kids, for your grandkids. But it's also showing up between now and next November so that we can take back the House of Representatives and end this presidency de facto. I know you'll be out there, you know, too social and yelling and screaming, but the legislative agenda is over. We'll finally have a little bit of oversight. We'll finally be back on our feet. And so I'm here on my feet, back to South Carolina, where I was about this time last year. Proud of all of you, proud of the role you play in our democracy, proud of the outsized role you played in the last 4 years in our democracy, and grateful that you haven't given up.
He has shot down any talk of 2028 with what he says is a need to focus on the 2026 midterms. And that's very similar to what we've heard from other folks who have recently visited our state, like Maryland Governor Wes Moore and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. You've heard him on this podcast. I'm not going to play him for you. You've heard him. Everyone's giving the old song and dance, though. And I'm sure Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear will say the same when he does a 2-day swing through the state next week. Guys, it's only 2025. We have the midterms to worry about, and they're not decided in South Carolina, so I don't really know what you're coming here for other than to get your feet wet for 2028. But whatever, this is okay. But this visit also gave Democrats, especially in those heavily Republican areas, some hope, including Greenville resident Sarah McHenry, who talked to me about what this visit meant to her.
I think it would be very helpful, and I think a lot of Democrats need to go to smaller places and not just big cities and engage with local people so that they know what things are going on, what people's concerns are. Also, I think the Democratic Party needs to be a bigger tent, and because Newsom can get elected in California, he couldn't get elected here as a Democrat, so we need to be able to have room for more conservative Democrats, moderates, liberal, things like that.
Do you think that means the Democratic Party needs to get more moderate, or how do you think that happens?
I think we need to not write people off because they say something once that's not, I guess it's cancelable or whatever. So, yeah.
How do you feel right now in terms of the state of the Democratic Party? Are you optimistic? Are you concerned? Are you collaborative? How do you feel right now?
Concerned. Very concerned. But it's always been kind of a slog being a Democrat in South Carolina. So, I would like to see some changes. I'd like to see younger people getting involved.
She was with her friend Valerie Mueller. They both drove up from nearby Greenville to hear the governor speak.
Well, it's just very frustrating and it feels isolating. You can work and you can work, and it just seems like we have to, as a South Carolina Democrat, have to rely on folks in key spots in very small, in very isolated pockets to make the right choices or better choices. And so just to come out here and to see people that share some of the same values that Governor Newsom spoke about when he opened, I think is really refreshing. I needed to see it.
In terms of how you feel about the Democratic Party in the state right now, how would you gauge your enthusiasm or your concern at this point?
I suppose I haven't. We have to find a way collectively to get the youth, the younger folks engaged, and not just be focused on I don't know, little segments, but a broader message. I don't know. I don't know what to do. I'm doing everything I can behind the scenes, but it's not enough.
Now, the setting of Main Street in Pickens transported me right back to another July, back in 2023. Do you guys remember what was happening in Pickens in July 2023? I'll tell you. It's when Donald Trump held his massive rally. There were some 30,000 people, and I was almost cooked to death on a press riser. Me and Meg Kennard. That's why you always wear sunscreen and hydrate, folks, because it was a brutal day in July. So that was just wrapping up this swing. We'll continue to cover all these folks coming to our fair state for you. Next up, I'm going to share. My Aunt Schechter is actually going to share. She has a piece for us on South Carolina legend Robert Smalls, who will soon be honored on Statehouse grounds with a monument.
It doesn't take long to make it around the Statehouse grounds, right in the downtown Columbia Center. And it doesn't take long to notice that the complex's standalone statues celebrating their legacies are all of white men, most with ties to either the Civil War or its legacy of the Jim Crow South. State lawmaker Brandon Cox wanted to change that history, and after months and months of meetings, he did just that.
That's just awesome.
You're pretty emotional in there.
Yeah.
More than 100 years after his death, Robert Smalls, who was a Civil War hero, an educator, and a South Carolina politician, will be honored with the first individual statue to an African American on the Statehouse complex. Cox, a white Republican, worked with his House colleague Jermaine Johnson, a black Democrat, to finally get the statue off the ground after previous unsuccessful attempts in years past. They selected an artist, Basil Watson, and they picked a prime location close to the Capitol's visitors' entrance. It's a big deal, Johnson says. He says it might not resonate with the public until it goes up, a timeline that hinges on fundraising.
So, it's just a fantastic thing for young black kids and kids in general to be able to come here and see that all men were created equal, like our Constitution indicates.
Few historical stories match the span of Smalls's life. That's how Bernard Powers puts it. He's professor emeritus at the College of Charleston and founding director of the Center for the Study of Slavery in Charleston.
You can tell the whole story of Robert Smalls with no fear of being embarrassed by it.
That story begins in 1839, when Smalls was born into slavery on the coast in Beaufort. In his early 20s, Smalls and other enslaved crew members commandeered a Confederate warship. Smalls, wearing a captain's hat and using Confederate hand signals, delivered the ship to the Union Navy and his crew to their freedom.
And of course, the captain got on board, and my goodness, he could not have been more surprised to find this ship captained and crewed by an all-slave crew. And Robert Smalls says to him something like, "Sir, I think that Uncle Abe Lincoln will find use of some of these cannons that we have on board."
Smalls' story doesn't end there. He bought the house he was enslaved in. He fought for the rights of African Americans in public education. He helped write the Reconstruction-era state constitution in 1868. And he served in the halls of the South Carolina Statehouse and Congress.
It's incredible. I mean, his story really does seem like an urban legend.
Tanya Matthews is president and CEO of the International African American Museum in Charleston.
And I think that extraordinary times create extraordinary people.
The unreal story is a story of South Carolina, Matthews says.
We have stories that have shown again and again and again that we can move, we can change, we can grow. Sometimes it's more painful than others, but it does happen here. And so I think that we can be a model of inspiration for ourselves as well as for the nation as a whole.
State Representative Cox can trace his family's South Carolina roots all the way back to the 1700s. And he admits he didn't fully know who Robert Smalls was before he pushed for the bill to install his statue on the Capitol grounds. He says it's become one of the most important actions he's taken as a lawmaker.
We made some history. That's emotional for me.
It's a story, he says, that can make any South Carolinian proud.
Thanks, Mayan. You can find that story and more on southcarolinapublicradio.org, and you might even hear it on NPR, because she pitches NPR and they wanted it, so it's going to be on NPR.
Oh, wow, man.
I'm going to continue to share the podcast with some folks here. It's been 10 years since the Confederate battle flag came off Statehouse grounds after first flying above the Statehouse dome from 1961 to 2000, when a legislative compromise put it front and center by the Confederate Memorial on the Statehouse grounds right there at Gervais and Main Street. That's where it used to fly. But the death of Senator Clemente Pinckney and 8 members of his flock at Mother Emanuel AME Church in 2015 prompted lawmakers to act, following the racist shooter's affinity for the flag. Delaney Flanagan has this report on where the flag went.
For most of 10 years, the flag has sat on the back wall of the Confederate Relic Room and Military Museum. The nylon flag is framed behind plexiglass with a tiny plaque. It's unassuming, surrounded by century-old artifacts. Alan Robertson, the museum's director, says he wants the museum to be known for not only the flag.
Personally, it was a sense of duty that the state needed this and needed a solution, and you couldn't get past what happened in Charleston. The flag is no longer disconnected from what happened in Charleston.
Robertson says he's there to tell the state's history and stay out of politics.
Also, be sure to check out the 2-part documentary, Downing of a Flag, that SCETV co-produced. It's an incredible documentary that you can find on pbs.org and the PBS app on your smart TV, your Rokus, what have you. Also, thanks, Delaney, for that piece. And lastly, the Atlantic hurricane season is underway. You know this. You're a smart person. And we're more than a month in. We've already seen Tropical Storm Chantel flirt with the coast over the weekend, and forecasters are calling for an above-normal and active season, which runs through the end of November. Now, we typically see some of the heaviest storms in September and October, like Hurricane Helene, which hit the western part of the state particularly hard at the end of September as a tropical storm. Like one of the worst storms, guys. It was actually the deadliest storm, surpassing the notorious Hurricane Hugo in 1989. We spent time in the upstate. We have a podcast all about Hurricane Helene if you go back through our files and check it out. But I recently spoke with South Carolina Emergency Management Division Director Kim Stenson, the steady hand who, along with other emergency directors and first responders and officials, guides the state through these natural disasters, which seem to happen about once a year or so. In fact, we had those wildfires at the beginning of the year that you might remember. You will remember, in fact. But Stenson said that the state is prepared even as the recovery from Hurricane Helene remains ongoing.
We prepare regardless, whether we have 1 or 10. And so we just go through our normal procedures, updating our plans, conducting exercises, and that sort of thing. So we want to be ready every year.
Mm-hmm. And you all just did that big tabletop exercise. Mm-hmm. What does that entail, essentially?
Well, that's basically for the governor and the state agency heads. And the governor gets briefed on capabilities at state agencies and see if there's any challenges by state agency. And we go through a different scenario every year. This year was a scenario very close to Hurricane Helene, except there was actually a landfall in Beaufort. So it could be potentially more devastating, the exercise that we went through for this time. But certainly underscores the fact, and Helene did that as well, is that it's not just a coastal event. If a hurricane comes near South Carolina, it can very easily be a full state event.
So when you look at that, Kim, what's the message for folks? I mean, obviously when we see the tracks, we know where it's likely to hit and impact. So is it really just a matter of everyone in the state, regardless of where you are, the coast, the inlands, the upstate, what's the message there for preparation?
Well, the message is to be prepared and to know what the threat is, probably your primary threat. If you live in a low-lying area, have a plan to move out of that area. You may not be told to evacuate necessarily. Maybe encouraged to do that by some of the local officials. Having a plan, be prepared to be by yourself for at least 3 days, having everything that you need to sustain yourself for 3 days, food and water, battery-operated radio, so in case your electricity goes out, that sort of thing. And all that information is on our website at scemd.org. It's also on our Emergency Manager app, the South Carolina Emergency Manager app, and also our dedicated hurricane website at hurricane.sc.
When we talk about federal funding and the work that you all do with FEMA, tell us how important or what role they play in support recovery and how you guys work with FEMA.
Well, they're a very important role for recovery because they pay for a good bit of it. We're going to have at least $200 million worth of cost share expenses, and that's on the state side. And we're expecting the disaster to cost probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $1.2 billion, of which the federal folks pick up that 75%. So that's has been very critical in terms of recovery. And that funding. And
President Donald Trump has announced that he wants to phase out FEMA, which would require an act of Congress. But after this, that happened after this hurricane season, it sounds like, saying that governors should be able to provide for their own states. Have you guys seen any decline in promised FEMA funds or for Helene or any other previous disasters?
No. We've had close consultation with our FEMA partners, and there's no indication that during this hurricane season, at least, that they will provide the resources that they normally do.
But if FEMA went away, how would that affect SCMD?
Well, we don't know yet. We don't know what the rules are. We can speculate in a number of areas, but we just really got to see how this unfolds. And the president had asked and established the FEMA Review Council to provide some recommendations to him. He should get those recommendations before the end of the year, and then I think we'll have a better understanding of what the landscape's going to look like.
As always, you can find this and more reporting at southcarolinapublicradio.org. I'm done sharing. Time for the weekend. We're working for the weekend here. Welcome to the wind down section, our little break from the news. We're glad you're here, along with A.T. Shire, lead podcast producer. A.T., hello.
Hello, Gavin. It's good to see you. I know that you've been out in the world doing things.
It's been a lot lately.
It's been a long time. Gavin, instead of calls, I've had some real life bespoke interaction with listeners this past week.
Bespoke interactions? What makes them so unique?
These are real, okay? These are real folks, not the big Hollywood
Not prompted,
types.
not plants that we float out in the wild.
Yeah, no one we flew in, okay? But I honestly felt like a big shot
Oh,
because this happened back to back 2 straight days. Okay?
Whoa.
So this was at work. I was sitting in my office talking with producer Sean.
Yes.
And Tabitha was walking some people on a tour, and she was going to introduce them to Sean, and I was just there, right?
Yeah.
And one of them, I hear that his name is Clemson. So I just started talking. I introduced myself, and he tells me that he has a drive to and from work, so he listens to a lot of podcasts, and that the Lead is his favorite podcast.
Wow.
Okay?
Thank you.
So I'm looking at him, and I'm like, Clemson. And I go, have you called in the show a few times? And he goes, I have called in a few times. So I clocked him. He was a fan.
Yeah.
It was great to meet you, Clemson. I'm so happy. Please call in more.
Yeah.
So that boosted the ego.
Finally,
Okay?
taking me out. Yeah.
That was on Tuesday or Wednesday, all right? And then the next day, Caitlin, she sends me a screenshot of someone trying to book Craft and Draft to pour their wedding or something, okay? And it's a normal email. And then at the very bottom, it says, P.S., in the least creepy way I can say this, I listen to AT on the Lead all the time, so emailing you feels like I'm talking to a celebrity. Hopes the family, mainly Rena, is doing well. So those 2 things back to back really had my juices going this week.
It's the Lead ecosystem. When you said the fan universe, essentially, for Lead,
Yes.
of course.
It's ever growing.
And he's also like, and maybe a discount, perhaps, since I know this celebrity.
I was thinking the other way. You and I should be invited to the wedding.
We just casually show up. Oh, it's so good to see everybody.
We should be there. If it's in town, let us know.
I have a first dance with the bride before I'm like, it's just like, everyone's like, oh, it's okay. He has a mustache.
No,
He's a
we
podcast.
love his
He's
pod.
a podcaster.
We love his pod.
I will match you a little bit on these, and it's not necessarily for the podcast, but it's some of the TV folks. 'Cause I was down in Charleston, and this will be on the pod in a forthcoming episode, but
tease.
It was about this burial site down there on the peninsula, right near the Citadel. They estimated up to 30,000 people have been buried on this site, and there's no marker, so they're trying to at least just get a marker from city council. It's very fascinating. They did a rosary ceremony with this priest, and some other folks read some names. It was very fascinating. The bagpipes played. We'll have a whole report. The woman who was in charge of it, Julie, was like, oh, it's good to meet you in person. Like, she thought it was just going to be a podcast thing, but she's like, you just don't look like you used to. I'm like, it's the summer stash. I know it's jarring. And then I also met this priest. So a priest walks into a bar. No.
Yeah, classic.
And he's
classic.
Like, and he was just very, he knew me from TV and was just appreciative of all we do. And, you hear that all the time from folks we meet on the road and out and about, especially in Charleston. Like, we got a lot of great people down there that know us and listen to us and watch us. So thank you to everyone who does that. And unfortunately, we don't have to go into my car buying experience right now, but no one recognized me during that process. There was no discount for being a beautiful public steward of public media.
Sadly, you didn't buy one of the car brands that we always bump
That's true.
the December to Remember sales events
That's
and all
true.
that stuff. So maybe if you had gone into a Lexus dealership, they would have been like, oh, Gavin Jackson.
And 18 was pushing me to hold off my car purchasing until December to remember.
I said, think about the show. Think about the show.
And then maybe we just don't tell them until December. Last time I bought my Volkswagen, which
we thought about lying to you folks.
I bought during December sign and drive sales event. But I bought a Subaru.
Yeah.
Because everyone raves about their Subarus. I was between a Honda. I was looking at the Kias and the Hyundais. Like, there was a bunch of different things. We almost got a Japanese import. I was really tempted.
Anyone that knows me, I've been a big advocate for a Japanese car, and this was a 1999 luxury Infiniti.
Nissan, Infiniti.
It was sick in there. There was wood grain everywhere. I'm pretty sure there's probably some ashtrays in there.
There was a van that I liked too. I was like, and like you could just buy it $8,000 outright.
Boom.
But
it had less miles than the car that you bought, though.
No, I think I was about to say.
It had like 15,000 miles.
I mean, you're shopping around, you're looking at all these prices, like, and this was not in my wheelhouse, guys. Like, this was not on my radar for 2025. I was driving down to Edisto for the holiday week.
Transmission flops out.
VW decides to just blow up on me.
Yeah.
It's not accelerating, so I'm over revving. I'm like, what's going on? I knew my friend Lynn had similar problems with her car, and I'm like, oh, it's happening now. And luckily, I got to turn around. I wasn't too far out of town from Columbia, so I ditched on the side of 26 right by 77. I got towed. Geico was super helpful in getting me a tow truck. So
shout out Geico.
Shout out Geico.
Unfortunately, I didn't get insurance with my new Subaru through Geico. I went to Progressive with Flo. It's cheaper. My insurance is cheaper already.
It's
very
cheaper.
And then that kicked off like the whole week, the 7 days in July of Gavin like trying to
spending a lot of money.
Well, and just like crash. Yeah. Oh, all of a sudden I have a car payment. How enjoyable.
Yeah.
And everyone's always like, don't you want a new car? I'm like, no, it was a 2017 Volkswagen Passat. I loved it. I was going to drive it till the wheels fell off. It blew up instead.
The idea of a new car, of course we want a new car.
Yeah. But I was also building savings. I was building savings instead. Now my savings is going into my new Subaru.
Yeah.
Got a great 2022 Subaru Outback Limited, which means it's all the bells and whistles.
It does. It's got every bell and
whistle.
whistle.
I could have gone lower than that, but it was a good used value. 17,000 miles on a 2022. I was like, okay. And I've gotten to know all the terms and what's good. I mean, because you look at CarMax, you look at other dealers. And I love the process because
knowledge.
you jump on the lot and like I don't even like to tell people I'm there and then they immediately clock you. They come out, they start working you. Fascinating to see everyone's different styles. Mm-hmm. And then you kind of gave me the great idea about how you play like one of your friends,
text them.
Dan. Yeah, everything's text or email
you can
or
text
call
them now.
And like you start playing each other off of each other. And as a child of divorce, I was meant for this.
Yeah.
And then covering politics, I'm like, it's great. And they're doing research for you, and then they're trying to sell you this, and then you go somewhere else and you tell them what they're doing. They're like, oh, don't listen to that guy. I used to work there too. So it was fascinating. And I actually got to get an Outback because before I was looking at a Crosstrek, and then I said, well, I want a limited, I want a warranty, blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, you really do have to get in the thick of it, and luckily I was fortunate to have time. Like, if this was a couple of months ago, I would have been like, I don't know what to do here. Like,
exactly.
So very fortunate there.
Pre-signy die, but sadly the car died. Okay.
But I got a new one. I'm a Subaru guy now. The mustache is going to have to stay, I think.
I think
so. It comes with the Subaru.
It probably knocks some dollars off of it.
I like to think it was
out of just
commanded.
Respect. Yeah, just out of respect.
It's coming in thick, so.
Anyway, people, have a good weekend.
Yeah.
Gavin, I'm glad you have some new wheels.
We're back, guys, and let us know. Share your car buying experiences. This can become a car pod now. I think they have I think it's called Car Talk. Yeah, we can. I've never heard of that before. We can do that.
We just came up with that.
In honor of those guys. Love Car Talk. But yeah, thank you guys for listening. 803-563-7169. That's how you can get on our podcast and let us know about your car shopping experiences. Everyone's favorite thing to do. Maybe you're a dealer. You want to give us even more of a discount. Just kidding. But you can always stay up to the latest news on scetv.org and southcarolinapublicradio.org. And don't forget to support your local newspapers. The South Carolina Lede is a production of South Carolina Public Radio. Our producer is A.T. Shire. Amy Crouch is our supervising producer. Sean Birch is our executive producer. Amanda Allen is our intern. This podcast is produced with support from PRX and is made possible in part by a grant from the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, as well as listener contributions to the ETV Endowment of South Carolina. For the South Carolina Lede, I'm Gavin Jackson. Be well, South Carolina. All my retirement savings tied up in plush toys.
What's a labubu?